All right, let's use the VistaView site selection tool and simply just answer another question of where can I build another one of these? And of course, we're going to be doing some site elimination to solve it. So, what are we trying to build today? Well, let's try to replicate one of the largest buildings in the world, the Tesla Gigafactory over in Austin. So here what we want to do is pull some information about what's going on at this existing facility, because if we're trying to replicate it, we've got to know something about what we're trying to replicate. So what we're going to do is first run a cell phone study to figure out what's going on at this facility. How many people are coming in and out of it? What's their workforce? How many total employees are actually going here? How far are people and employees willing to drive to this facility? All of those questions, we're going to try to get a glimpse of the answer by running a cell phone report. So here you can see at this facility, and it is rather large, how many cell phones are coming in and out of it over time. You got roughly 50,000 cell phones every single month are coming in and out of this facility. Over here, you've got the busiest days of the week. So it looks like production starts on Monday, it starts ramping up at a high point. Most people are going to this facility on a Wednesday, and then it's ramping down. But also, since we have that cell phone, we can try to figure out what are the typical employees or visitors like at this facility. Over 20% of the people in and out are classified as an O54 by Experian. So now we get a little bit of in-depth detail. I mean, think about it. 20% of everybody you run into at this facility kind of looks like these guys. They make this kind of money, have this kind of demographic. They're renters. You can see their estimated household income, all the demographics about what 20% of their visitors are like. So 1 out of every 5 people you run into, probably going to look like this. So all of this is just in the due diligence stage of trying to figure out what's going on at this facility. Using that cell phone data, we can also figure out just how far their employees are willing to travel, which here it's about 25 minutes during traffic conditions in Austin. So most people are showing up, takes them 25 minutes to get there, 25 minutes back. Maybe they listen to a podcast in the car. Who knows? This is what's going on at this facility. Now that we know a lot of information about it, specifically how far people are willing to travel and the total employee count, which it looks like, if you can believe it or not, there's about 19,000 people it's predicting that are employees on site within this. That is, like, this is a gigantic facility, huge economic generator, lots of people going in and out of it. And now what we want to do is, okay, if we're trying to replicate this facility or this operations, what type of staff are coming in and out of it? Because we want to make another one of these. Where can Tesla theoretically build another light gigafactory that's in Austin? Well, we got to look at the occupations that are coming in and out. And over 38% of the people that are employed at this facility are classified as miscellaneous assembler and fabricators. That's their job. That's their skill set. This is what they do at the facility. Then you got 12% of the staff are probably engine and other machine assemblers. Probably change it for motor, right? Or just machine assemblers on that one. But that is the occupation they're hiring from. Then you got industrial engineers, software developers, painting and coding at this facility. All of the different staffs on down the line. So now that we know the type of staffing pattern, let's, of course, get into the best part of a map and seeing where we can find this staffing pattern throughout the United States in the quantity that's going on at the Gigafactory. Here we're able just to visualize every single city that might be under the microscope and say, hey, do you have the labor force for 19,000 total head count? And we're going to try to estimate the total payroll at this facility using the 75th percentile wage, just see what the total cost to hire everybody in the market is. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start removing some of the cities that don't make sense right off the bat, just looking at labor supply. So every city is under consideration. Now let's just say we're going to start applying the labor filter. And here are the top largest cities in the U.S., but we're not really being that picky on labor supply. Like, look, Amarillo can technically do it, but they got a minimum hiring ratio of 0.01. If you go to Dallas, you're upping it to 0.04. And so now we're going to start being really strict on the labor. Hey, do you really have it? I need to be picky. So I'm going to inch it up to maybe instead of 0.01, let's go to 0.3. So what other markets could technically support a Gigafactory Austin based upon labor? So here, the Bay Area, might You got LA, San Diego, that whole area. You can do maybe one in Phoenix, large enough city. Up here north in Denver, it's the smallest number. There's a lot more options in Phoenix in this general vicinity that you could go to. Dallas could handle it. Austin's still there because yeah, Austin should be there. We're basing all this analysis off the existing. And now we've got Houston could be a possible place for a gigafactory. Another one that would be really cool is Huntsville, Alabama. Good contender for a gigafactory. You got some Ohio markets, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit could do it if you wanted to. It makes sense because they're in the automobile staffing pattern that we're using. And now let's just start removing it to the finalist. All right, we're going to be more stringent. Some of these markets are just going to disappear. And this is where we could have a large enough labor supply. So yeah, I think Dallas was in the running for the gigafactory, Austin initially, but Dallas could be a prime market. So could Milwaukee. So could Chicago. So could Detroit. You got Cincinnati. Indianapolis has a couple places. It's still hanging in there. So is St. Louis. And then we got Huntsville, Alabama. Huntsville, Alabama is super interesting down there. But now what we want to do is all these cities are good on a labor supply and cost perspective. Now let's add in the site selection process just the overall labor growth. Well, we want to go into an area that not only has a supply now, but it's going to be growing. What market has that? So now we're bringing in the schools, the completion rates, the certificates for these jobs. Let's see. And of course, we want to bring in natural disasters. Tesla Giga Austin is a pretty expensive thing to build. It'd be a shame if a natural disaster took it out. We've got incentives. So, hey, if you're going to hire that many people at a facility, governors all around the world want to know, can they potentially vie for a project this of scale, this big? And now we've got scores relating just how the ease of which incentives might flow. So, hey, technically, just based on the incentives, Ohio would love a project like this. Alabama would be strong. That Huntsville, Alabama market that has the labor and the cost so far, they also score really well for incentives. So let's take all of this information, incentives, taxes, the real estate cost, the cost of living data of, hey, how far does that employee's dollar stretch in the market? Perhaps we want to tap into the military base and use people that have served the country when they retire out. Perhaps they also want to participate in this monumentous of a building project. And of course, engineering talent. Where are the schools? Where are they graduating engineers? Now let's put it all into the matrix under consideration and see what are the top cities that might vie for this project. And here we've got our weighted matrix now. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and say I really do need labor supply as a more weighting besides the default setting. Let's say I'm trying to minimize my cost. It's important. Maybe it's not a 10. We can lower it down to, say, a 7, a weighting valuation. I want to know that this is a growing market because I plan on building. If we're going to go through all this work and build a big guy, I want to know the occupation growth is there and the school system and everything's sound. Incentive weighting, this is a mega project. We do want to maximize the incentives. And where can we save some money, not pay for things, not be taxed so much? Where can we get some property tax abatements? Like, I want incentives. I want people to want me because I know how much I'm going to offer that community. Engineering graduates, I'm going to up that up to about a 6. Living wage is nice. Real estate costs, we're going to build it from scratch probably, so maybe real estate cost doesn't really account for that much. When you hire this many people, your labor costs are going to far outweigh your real estate costs, so I'm not going to consider that. For such a large site like the Gigafactory, let's do the ability or the cost of electricity in a market. That's also under consideration. I do not want to get this wiped out by a hurricane or a tornado or an earthquake. I want to minimize my natural disaster because this big of a facility, if it goes down, it's our carrier. We don't want anything to happen to it. And I want to up my military personnel weighting. So where would I go to build this? Some of the highest markets at the top, we've got Tucson scoring extremely well. Maybe that's a large part to do with labor costs and occupation growth. Then we've got Phoenix, Huntsville, Nashville, Huntsville, St. Louis, Huntsville. So if I'm wanting to maybe open up another gigafactory, Huntsville market seems pretty strong. St. Louis is an interesting choice. Nashville is up there. Phoenix, and then we got Tucson, and then you got Toledo, Ohio, Chicago, and on down the line in terms of its overall matrix score. So, really fun way to figure out where the next site should be